My name is Layla Carter, and I'm 30 years old. That day in the lawyer's office in Bismarck, North Dakota, my younger brother's sneer hit me like a punch. A rotting old cowshed, he scoffed, swirling his bourbon with a smug grin. He'd just inherited our grandfather's lakeside mansion and hotel worth $7 million while I was stuck with a dilapidated house on family land, his words the cowshed dripping with contempt. "Enjoy your pile of rubble, Layla," he taunted, raising his glass as if toasting his victory. My fists tightened, the sting of always being second best burning inside me. The room, his accountant, our grandfather's lawyer, fell dead silent, their gazes fixed on the floor. I'd spent years working hard, always outshined by him, and now this insult. Suddenly the lawyer cleared his throat. "Actually," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. He slid a sealed envelope across the table toward me. My brother's grin froze, his hand twitched, and his glass crashed to the floor, bourbon splattering everywhere. The envelope was heavy, its edges frayed, whispering of a secret my grandfather had left for me, not him. My heart pounded. What was inside? A hint, a test. I locked eyes with my brother, his face pale with shock. That moment in the lawyer's office changed everything. If a family betrayal ever flipped your world, share your story in the comments and smash that subscribe button for real-life drama that'll keep you hooked. 3 days after Grandpa's funeral, I sat in the lawyer's office still reeling. My name is Layla Carter, and the weight of loss clung to me like damp air. Grandpa's sudden stroke had ripped him from us, leaving a void I couldn't process. I was 10 when my parents died in a car crash, their faces now blurry snapshots in my mind. My brother, 3 years younger, barely remembered them. Grandpa and Grandma took us in, raising us in Bismarck, North Dakota, where the wide plains stretched endlessly. Grandma passed 5 years ago, her gentle voice still echoing in my quiet moments. Grandpa, though, was larger than life, a sharp-minded investor in energy and real estate, always dreaming big. He taught me how to read the wind's patterns for his energy projects, his hands guiding mine to feel the invisible currents. But my brother, he was Grandpa's golden boy, the one with a knack for numbers and charm, destined to take over his real estate ventures. I'd always been the steady one, the one who listened, who worked hard without complaint. Yet Grandpa's eyes lit up for my brother's bold ideas, his plans for hotels and mansions. I didn't resent it, then just accepted it as my place. But now, sitting in that office, the sting of being overlooked sharpened. The lawyer, a gray-haired man with a calm demeanor, adjusted his glasses and read from Grandpa's will. My brother leaned forward, his posture radiating confidence. "The lakeside mansion and hotel valued at $7 million go to my grandson," the lawyer announced. My brother's lips curled into a self-assured smile, his fingers tapping the armrest. He didn't even look at me, just murmured something about prime real estate to his accountant, a woman with sharp eyes and a tight bun who nodded without meeting my gaze. Then came my part. "To my granddaughter, Layla Carter. I leave the old family house on the outskirts of Bismarck." The words landed like a stone. That house, crumbling, forgotten, a relic on our land, felt like a slap. My brother let out a low chuckle, muttering to his accountant about its charm. I felt my face burn, the room shrinking around me. The accountant shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting to the papers in her lap. She knew something I could tell her. Avoidance screamed it. The lawyer's voice stayed steady, but I caught a flicker of something in his expression, like he was holding back. My mind raced back to Grandpa's lessons, his stories about the family land, how it held secrets he'd only hinted at. He'd walk me through that old house, pointing out creaky floorboards, saying, "This place has stories, Layla. You just have to listen." Growing up, I'd trail Grandpa through Bismarck's fields, learning how he built his Fortune wind farm, solar panels, and later real estate deals like the mansion and hotel. He'd tell me the land was our legacy, but his focus always shifted to my brother's flashy proposals. I'd swallow my disappointment, believing hard work would earn my place. Now, in that office, I saw the truth I'd been pushed aside. My brother's voice broke my thoughts, boasting about turning the hotel into a luxury hotspot. Bismarck's elite will be begging for reservations, he bragged, his tone dripping with arrogance. The accountant scribbled notes, still avoiding my eyes. I wanted to scream, to demand why Grandpa thought so little of me. But I stayed silent. My hands folded, my resolve hardening. I remembered one night years ago when Grandpa sat me down in that old house's kitchen. He'd poured me tea, his voice soft. "Layla, you see what others miss. That's your strength." I'd brushed it off, thinking he was just being kind. Now those words gnawed at me. Had he seen something in me my brother lacked? The lawyer's pause pulled me back. He adjusted his papers, his fingers lingering on the folder. My brother kept talking, oblivious, planning his victory party at the mansion. The accountant's lips twitched like she was hiding a secret. My stomach twisted, something was off. I wasn't just the overlooked granddaughter. Grandpa had a plan, and I was part of it. As the meeting ended, my brother stood already on his phone talking about renovations. The accountant hurried out, her heels clicking. I stayed seated, my mind replaying Grandpa's words about the old house. It wasn't just a ruin, it was a message. I had to find out what he'd left me, what he'd hidden in that forgotten place. My brother's laughter echoed as he left, but I wasn't defeated. I'd go to that house, dig into its secrets, and prove I was more than his shadow. Driving to the family's crumbling property on the edge of Bismarck, North Dakota, felt like a quiet revolt against my brother's scorn. His words calling Grandpa's old house a cowshed stung, but now they fueled me. I gripped the steering wheel, my pickup truck jolting over the rough road. The envelope from the lawyer rested on the passenger seat, heavier than it should be. I'd glanced inside earlier, catching Grandpa's handwriting. The family land holds what matters. What was he trying to tell me? A hidden message? A test? As a kid, I'd follow Grandpa through that house's dusty rooms. He'd talk about the land, how it tied our family together through storms and struggles. "This place is more than it looks," he'd say, his voice low, eyes sharp. I was 10, hanging on his every word while he pointed out old beams he'd repaired. My brother stayed home, sketching plans for Grandpa's hotels, uninterested in the past. Those moments with Grandpa were mine alone, but now I wondered if I'd overlooked something, a secret he'd tucked away in that house. The truck's headlights hit the house, revealing chipped paint and sagging shutters. It looked forgotten, a shadow of what it once was. My brother's mocking laughter rang in my ears, but I pushed it aside. I wasn't here for him. Grandpa's note kept circling in my mind. He'd taught me the land's value beyond dollars and deals. Was there something hidden here? Something he trusted me to find? I wanted to rip open the envelope, but I needed to see the house first, to walk where he'd walked. I dialed Erin, my best friend since high school. "Erin, it's me," I said. "Meet me at the old family house. Tonight." Her voice crackled, skeptical. "That place, it's falling apart." "What's this about?" I told her about the will, my brother's lakeside mansion and hotel, my inheritance of a ruin, and the envelope. I skipped his exact taunts. Those were mine to bear. Erin sighed. "You're not kidding, are you?" "Fine, I'm coming, but you're buying me coffee." I smiled, relieved. Erin Walsh never let me down, no matter how crazy my ideas sounded. Waiting for her, I stepped out into the chilly night air. The house stood silent, its outline stark against the sky. Grandpa's stories flooded back, his early days, building wind farms, buying up land when Bismarck was smaller, quieter. He'd tap the house's foundation, saying, "This is where we began. Never forget." My brother brushed off those tales, chasing Grandpa's bigger ventures. But I'd listened, and now I wondered if that's why he left me this place. Was it a puzzle? A legacy. Erin's car rolled up, headlights slicing the darkness. She stepped out, ponytail bouncing, flashlight in hand. "This place is creepy," she said, scanning the house. "What are we even looking for?" I held up the envelope, its edges worn from my grip. I don't know yet, I said. But Grandpa gave me this house for a reason. There's something here, Erin. She raised an eyebrow but nodded. Okay, but if we find rats, I'm gone. I laughed, the weight lifting for a second. We faced the house, its porch creaking under the night's quiet. Grandpa's voice echoed. You see what others miss. I wasn't just the sister in my brother's shadow anymore. I was here to uncover what Grandpa hid to prove I was enough. Erin's flashlight swept the door. Ready? She asked. I nodded, steady. Whatever lay inside, I'd find it. Stepping into the old house's creaky porch the night before, I felt Grandpa's presence in every shadow. Erin's flashlight beam danced across the warped floorboards, her voice sharp with unease. This place feels like it's watching us, she muttered, kicking a loose plank. I nodded, my pulse quickening. Grandpa had left me this house for a reason, and I was here to find it. His note from the envelope about the family land holding what mattered pushed me forward. We moved deeper, the air thick with dust and memory. Erin swept her light over the living room, its walls stained and peeling. Where do we even start? She asked, her tone half joking, half wary. I remembered Grandpa's stories, how he'd linger by the fireplace, tapping the bricks like they held secrets. Let's try there, I said, pointing to the hearth. We knelt, prying at the stones. Erin grumbled about cobwebs, but her hands worked fast, tugging at a loose brick. It gave way, revealing nothing but dirt. My stomach sank, but I wouldn't quit. Grandpa taught me to look closer to see what others missed. We moved to the hallway where he'd once shown me a loose floorboard. He used to hide things here, I said, my fingers tracing the wood. Erin handed me a crowbar from her bag. You're lucky I'm prepared, she teased. I pried up the board, and there it was, a rusted metal box tucked beneath the floor. My breath caught. Erin's eyes widened. No way, she whispered. I lifted it out, its weight, solid, promising. The lid was locked, but a small keyhole glinted in the flashlight's glow. Erin rummaged through her bag for tools, but I stopped her. Wait, I said, pulling out the envelope from the lawyer. Inside with the note was a tiny key I'd barely noticed before. My hands shook as I fitted it into the lock. The box clicked open, revealing a folded letter, a stack of yellowed documents, and a heavy brass key with a bank's logo. Erin leaned closer. What's all this? She asked. I unfolded the letter, Grandpa's handwriting, clear and steady. My dearest granddaughter, it began. If you're reading this, you've found what I hid for you. The land is our legacy, but its true value lies beyond this house. The key will show you. Trust your instincts as I always trusted you. My throat tightened. Grandpa had believed in me more than I'd known. The documents were dense legal papers, maps, and deeds mentioning land parcels I didn't recognize. One page caught my eye, a contract tied to energy rights hinting at something big, something Grandpa had kept quiet. Erin scanned the papers, her brow furrowed. This looks serious, Layla. Like millions serious. I nodded, my mind racing. Grandpa had built his fortune on energy wind farms, solar fields, but he'd never mentioned anything like this. Was this why he left me the house? To lead me to this box? This key? My brother's face flashed in my mind, his smug grin as he claimed the mansion and hotel. He thought he'd won, but Grandpa had other plans. We need to figure out what this key unlocks, I said, clutching it. Erin agreed, her usual sarcasm gone. Bank's the next stop, right? She asked. I nodded, feeling a surge of purpose. Grandpa's letter wasn't just words. It was a map to something bigger. Something he'd trusted me to uncover. The documents hinted at land rights, maybe tied to his energy ventures, but I couldn't be sure yet. I wouldn't let my brother's taunts stop me now. We packed the box's contents, careful not to damage the papers. Erin's flashlight flickered and she cursed under her breath. This place is falling apart, she said, but her grin showed she was all in. I smiled back, grateful for her. Grandpa's voice echoed in my head. You see what others miss. This box wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Whatever waited at the bank, I was ready to claim it. I sat in the bank parking lot holding Grandpa's letter. The bank's sterile room still lingered in my mind, its fluorescent lights harsh against the weight of what we'd found. Kathleen, the bank manager, had led me to the vault earlier that morning, her calm professionalism a stark contrast to my racing heart. Erin stayed back, saying she'd rather wait outside than deal with stuffy bank vibes. I didn't argue her support the night before was enough. Kathleen Rogers, a woman in her 40s with a steady gaze, handed me the safe deposit box, its brass key fitting perfectly from the metal box we'd found in the old house. I slid the key in my hand, steady despite the nerves. The box opened with a soft click, revealing a thick envelope, a bundle of documents, and another letter in Grandpa's handwriting. Kathleen stood nearby, her expression neutral but curious. I opened the envelope first, pulling out stacks of stock certificates, government bonds, and a deed to land I didn't know Grandpa owned. Kathleen's eyes widened slightly as she helped me sort through them. "These are significant?" she said, her voice low. "I'll need to verify, but this could be worth millions." My breath caught. Millions. I'd expected something, but not this. The documents detailed energy stocks, shares in wind and solar companies Grandpa had invested in decades ago, now skyrocketed in value. The bonds tied to government projects were stable and massive. The deed described a parcel of land outside Bismarck rich with untapped resources. Kathleen ran calculations, her fingers quick on a calculator. "Based on current market values," she said, "you're looking at $12 million, give or take." 12 million. The number hit like a wave, drowning out my brother's smug boasts about his $7 million mansion and hotel. Grandpa hadn't overlooked me, he'd chosen me. I turned to the letter, my hands trembling as I unfolded it. "My dearest Layla," Grandpa wrote, "you've always seen the world as I did, patient, thoughtful, grounded in what lasts. This wealth isn't just money, it's the future I built for you. The stocks and bonds are from my early energy ventures, the land a reserve for what's to come. Your brother's path is flash and fire, but yours is enduring. Use this to shape the world as I know you can." Tears pricked my eyes. Grandpa had trusted me not just with wealth, but with his vision. He'd seen my quiet strength, my years of listening, and rewarded it. Kathleen cleared her throat, breaking the silence. "This is extraordinary," she said. "Your grandfather planned this carefully. The land alone could double in value with the right development." I nodded, still processing. Grandpa's letter wasn't just about money, it was about legacy. He'd known my brother would chase glory, but he'd banked on me to carry forward what mattered. The stocks tied back to his wind farms, the ones he'd taught me about as a kid, showing me how to read the land's potential. The bonds were his safety net, built over years of calculated risks. The land, a mystery, but one I'd unravel. My brother's face flashed in my mind, his confidence at the wheel, reading his glass shattering when the lawyer hinted at more. He thought he'd won, but Grandpa had played a longer game. I clutched the letter, its words grounding me. Kathleen offered to secure the documents in the bank's vault until I decided my next steps. "Take your time," she said, her tone kind. "This is a lot to process." I thanked her, my voice steady despite the storm inside. I wasn't the overlooked sister anymore. I was the one Grandpa trusted with his true fortune. As I left the vault, the weight of $12 million settled on me, not as a burden, but as a purpose. Grandpa's plan was clear. He'd given me the tools to build something lasting, something my brother's flash couldn't touch. I'd prove him right. 6 months later, Reed's calls turned desperate. My brother's voice, once dripping with confidence, now cracked over the phone, pleading for a meeting. I agreed, not out of pity, but to see how far he'd fallen. We met at a diner in Bismarck, its faded booths, a far cry from the glitzy venues he used to flaunt. He looked worn, his suit, rumpled eyes, hollow. The mansion and hotel Grandpa left him worth $7 million had crumbled under his touch, just as I'd suspected they would. He'd mismanaged the hotel from the start. Guests dwindled after he fired half the staff, replacing them with flashy but unqualified friends. Online reviews tanked, calling the place a ghost town with overpriced drinks. I'd heard whispers around town: suppliers, unpaid bookings canceled. My brother, always chasing grandeur, ignored the basics Grandpa taught us. "It's under control," he'd bragged early on, dismissing my warnings. Now he sat across from me, his hands fidgeting with a coffee mug, admitting the hotel was bleeding money. The mansion was worse. A legal dispute had erupted over unpaid property taxes tied to a shady deal he'd made to expand the brand. Some investor smelling blood sued for ownership, claiming my brother defaulted on a loan Grandpa never approved. Court papers piled up, and he couldn't afford the lawyers to fight back. "They're coming for it all," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "The mansion, the hotel, everything." I leaned back, unsurprised. He'd built his empire on ego, not sense. Then came the begging. "Layla, you've got money," he said, eyes darting to my face. "You found something in that old house, didn't you? Help me out. We're family." His words stung, not because they moved me, but because they echoed his old arrogance, now dressed in desperation. Family. He'd mocked me, called my inheritance a ruin, laughed while I swallowed my hurt. I thought of Grandpa's letter, his trust in my vision, not my brother's flash. "No," I said, my voice firm. "You made your choices." His face twisted, a mix of shock and anger. "You'd let them take everything," he pressed, leaning closer. "After all we've been through," I held his gaze unflinching. "All we'd been through was him basking in Grandpa's favor while I worked in the shadows." I'd offered advice early on, simple fixes for the hotel, but he'd brushed me off, too proud to listen. Now, with his world collapsing, he wanted my help. I shook my head. "You didn't want me when things were good," I said. "You don't get me now." Weeks later, the news hit. The courts ruled against him. The mansion was seized to cover his debts, its marble halls emptied by creditors. The hotel followed, shuttered and auctioned off to settle the investors' claims. My brother's empire, built on Grandpa's name, was gone. I felt no joy, only a quiet resolve. Grandpa had seen this coming. His letter had hinted at my brother's reckless streak. He'd trusted me to carry the real legacy, not chase fleeting glory. I drove past the hotel one evening, its sign, dark windows boarded. A part of me remembered our childhood, when my brother's laughter filled our house before his ambition turned sharp. But those days were gone. He'd chosen his path, and I'd chosen mine. Grandpa's faith in me, backed by $12 million, was my foundation now. I wouldn't let my brother's mistakes pull me down. A year after Grandpa's death, I walked through my research center. The old house, once mocked as a crumbling ruin, now stood transformed, its walls humming with purpose. I'd poured my heart and a chunk of the $12 million into turning it into a hub for renewable energy research. Solar panels gleamed on the roof, and inside engineers tested prototypes for wind turbines, building on Grandpa's legacy in energy. The creaky floors were gone, replaced with polished concrete, but I kept the fireplace, a nod to the stories he'd told me there. The center wasn't just a building, it was a promise kept. Grandpa's letter had urged me to shape the world, and I took it seriously. With the stocks and bonds from the safe deposit box, I funded cutting-edge projects, hiring local talent who shared my vision for sustainable energy. Bismarck's community noticed, universities sent students to intern, and businesses reached out for partnerships. The land deed part of the $12 million held mineral rights I donated to expand the center's scope, ensuring it would grow for years. But the center was only half the plan. I'd set up a foundation for orphaned children named after Grandpa. The Qui used profits from the energy stocks to fund scholarships, housing, and mentorship programs. I'd been that kid once, clinging to Grandpa's lessons when life felt uncertain. Now I could give others that anchor. At the foundation's opening, a girl no older than 10 hugged me, her eyes bright with gratitude. "Thank you for giving us a chance," she said. My throat tightened, knowing Grandpa would have smiled. Erin helped every step of the way, her sharp humor keeping me grounded. "You're turning into a saint," she teased one day, watching me sign grant papers. I laughed, shaking my head. Just doing what Grandpa trusted me to do. Kathleen, the bank manager, connected me with financial advisors to ensure the choir's stability. Their support reminded me I wasn't alone, even if my brother was no longer in the picture. My brother had vanished after his empire collapsed. His calls stopped. His social media went dark, and mutual friends said he'd left Bismarck. I didn't chase him. He'd made his choices chasing flash over substance, and I'd made mine. Grandpa's faith had been my guide, his belief that hard work, humility, and giving back were worth more than fleeting glory. I didn't hate my brother, but I couldn't carry his mistakes. Our paths had diverged, and I was done looking back. Standing in the research center, I watched a team test a new turbine blade, their voices alive with ideas. This was what Grandpa meant by legacy, not mansions or hotels, but something that lasted, something that lifted others. The 12 million wasn't just wealth. It was a tool to build what he'd dreamed of. I'd learned to tune out the noise, mockery, doubt, even my own fears, and focus on what mattered. Hard work had turned a crumbling house into a beacon. Humility kept me grounded, listening to engineers and kids alike. Dedication drove me to honor Grandpa's vision, not just for me, but for a community. As I walked out, the sun hit the center's sign engraved with Grandpa's name. A year ago, I'd been the overlooked sister handed a worthless inheritance. Now I stood taller, not because of money, but because I'd built something real. The kids in the Kwikwi would grow up with chances I'd fought for. The center would push energy innovation forward just as Grandpa had. I'd proven his trust right, and that was enough.